My name's George Pittman. I grew up in Greenwood, Delaware. I was a partner with Bill Wise in the surfboard business, and we started surfing in March of '62. In fact, we started surfing, I think, the weekend before the infamous March '62 storm, which wiped out the boardwalks in Ocean City and Bethany Beach and Rehoboth. And the place we started surfing was halfway between Rehoboth and Indian River Inlet. We had no idea what we were doing. We paddled out, and it was just like being in a washing machine. We knew you were supposed to wax a surfboard, but we didn't know what kind of wax to use. We didn't know to use Simonize or what. So finally, we met someone that told us to use paraffin. So that made surfing a little bit easier as we learned. Actually, we didn't really learn how to surf until that spring when we made an acquaintance with a person by the name of Don Graham, who was in the Air Force at Dover Air Force Base. And he grew up in Southern California and surfed Malibu and those areas, and he was quite an accomplished surfer. So he really told us the ins and outs of how to go about surfing. So we were the only surfers here. So we had no role models except when we met Don Graham. We were skin divers, and Bill had read a copy of a Skin Diver magazine. I think there was an article in there by Bev Morgan about surfing, and it kind of captured Bill's imagination. He showed it to me, and he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Yeah, let's try that." So not only did we try it, there was an ad in the magazine for Bohemian surfboards, which were pop-outs. I think Dale Velzy had his name attached to them. So we bought, I think, 3 surfboards, and that's what we learned to surf on. Then we were, as we got started and we met up with Don Graham, we found out that we really were surfing on inferior quality surfboards, and so we finally upgraded, and we contacted Hobie Alter, and we asked him to sell us the Hobie surfboard. We were going to start our business, and Hobie said he couldn't sell us the Hobie surfboard. He had just bought Ole, and he said that he would sell us the Ole surfboard, which was the same board as the Hobie, just a different sticker, because he was selling Hobie surfboards in Virginia Beach, and he wanted to protect the guys in Virginia Beach. Little did he know that Virginia Beach and say Rehoboth Beach or Ocean City, Maryland were 200 miles away. So once he realized that, then we started buying the Hobie surfboards for resale. In 1963, Bill and I decided, we were selling surfboards out of the back of his truck, and we decided that we would open up a surfboard shop. And so we made a deal with a property owner, and in 1964 we opened the store in Ocean City, Maryland. Prior to that, I went to California to work at Hobie Surfboards and kind of learned the business, and also I worked in the back of the store on Coast Highway, the retail store, where we patched surfboards with a guy by the name of Gaylord Vermillier, who is still making surfboards out in Kona in Hawaii. So we kind of got a good grounding on how to go about running a shop, and just the business in general. And that was in 1964. We were relatively successful right from the get-go. We actually were the first full-fledged surfboard shop in Ocean City, Maryland. There was one person there, a fellow by the name of Paul Mumford at Paul's Tackle Shop, that was selling surfboards kind of on the side, but his main business was fishing tackle, and he was not surfboards, so he was never any real competition to us. The timing of our opening a store Getting into the surfboard business and opening a store was very good. That was when the Beach Boys were big music stars and all their surf music, and everybody was kind of getting in tune with what surfboards were and the lifestyle. We were also fortunate that in '64, Bruce Brown had completed the film Endless Summer. And part of a promotion with Hobie is they came east and they went to all of Hobie's surfboard shops and showed the movie in that city. It was narrated by Bruce Brown live. It was no soundtrack on that film. It was filmed in 16mm film, and he did a live narration. Later on that year, they blew that film up to 35mm and put a soundtrack on it and started showing it in some of the art movie houses. In fact, I think in the East here, first place I knew it was shown, it was over in Washington, D.C. When we first started surfing, the city fathers in Ocean City said we could surf from sun up till 10 o'clock where the lifeguards were. Then you had to be off the beach and then you could go back out afterwards. We wanted a place that we could surf, and at the time the mayor was Hugh Cropper, and I have to hand it to him. We had a debate that was on the radio, and I was pleading my case to him to have a spot to surf. I don't really think it came to much avail, but where we could surf all day was up above 94th Street in Ocean City when there was nothing up there. There was absolutely, the beach was barren. There was no buildings or anything else like that. And that's where we rented our surfboards. I worked at the people that owned the land. There was two people from Salisbury, Maryland, Avery Hall, who was in the insurance business, and another gentleman by the name of Natty Wooten. And I negotiated for them to use that beach exclusively. I think I paid them $1,000 to use it all summer, and that was about probably the third of a mile of beach front. We started renting surfboards up there in '64, and we used to cram my Econoline van full of surfboards, which would probably take 8, 9, maybe 10 surfboards max. Then I think Spider may have rented up there. Then the following year, as we went big time, and that's when we bought Bill and I bought a school bus, and a used school bus, and we took all the seats out and put some channel iron across the bus so we could stack boards in there. And my representative up there was Donald Smedley Graham. He rented surfboards up there for 2 years. That was the '65 and '66. That was fairly lucrative. As I said before, nobody made money in surfboard business. Ultimately, I think people did, but in those days, the markup was so slim, and you made it a little bit on clothing. Of course, there wasn't that much clothing going around, not like it is today. So being able to rent surfboards made being in business worthwhile. Most of the good surfers that we experienced early on in Ocean City were children of military people who served time at Hickam Air Force Base, or they were in the Navy at Pearl Harbor. A lot of the fathers were captains and admirals, and those guys, they had gone, their dads had come back either to the Pentagon or, in one case, to the Naval Academy. One of the fellows, his name is Roy Cowdery. Roy's dad was a captain in the Navy, and he was at the Naval Academy. There was a young man by the name of Thumper Miller. His dad, I think, was Air Force. And that was like in '64. And then '65, they were still the standouts, but then a lot of the local kids were starting to get good, especially the younger ones that had started to, the ones that were maybe 11, 12 years old were just starting, and they catch on quick. But most of the good guys early on had surfed Hawaii or California, and they were offsprings of military people. Two of the local boys that impressed us right off the bat were Jeff Mumford and Bobby Church, and those guys could ride surf mats standing up. Their parents owned hotels in the same block in Ocean City on the boardwalk, so they were friends, and they had these Hodgman surf mats, which were the best surf mats. At that time, they were the best ones made, and they could ride those standing up, so they were a natural. They took to surfboards. Riding a surfboard was almost nothing for them after being able to ride on about a 4-foot surf mat. So those kids were pretty impressive. Some of the local kids learned to surf in Ocean City in those early years were the three Johnson brothers, Carl, Al, and Richard, who's also known as Skill, became pretty good surfers. And along with another person by the name of Richie Bradford, they were some of our earliest customers. They were good surfers and surfed a lot. They were just good people to be with. Another individual was a fellow by the name of Keith Campbell, and Keith had spent the previous winter in Hawaii and had done some surfing in Hawaii, and when he came east and saw they were surfing in Ocean City, he immediately wanted to buy a surfboard, and he was quite persuasive, and he didn't have any money, and he saw a surfboard that he wanted, and he said, I'll pay you next week, but I don't have any money with me. He said, I'll give you my watch. What do you want? So finally I said, well, take the surfboard, I don't want your watch. And he went out the door with a surfboard, and he paid me the following week. We got into skateboarding mainly because Hobie had come out with a line of skateboards. They just built that bridge, I think, across Assateague, and in the wintertime there was no traffic across it at all, so we'd load up a bunch of guys and we'd go down there and skateboard on that bridge. Of course, we were, compared to what they do today, we were in the Stone Age, and of course the skateboards were in the Stone Age too. They were nothing, a whole lot better than putting 2 roller skates on a 2x4, but we used to have fun doing that. That was all part of the surfing scene at that time. Too cold to surf in Ocean City in February, even with a wetsuit. In August of '65, my partner Bill Wise had an unfortunate accident surfing at South Bethany Beach, Delaware, and he broke his neck and he became a quadriplegic. It was a long recovery, and the following year I ran the business. That would have been 1966. I ran the business by myself. Bill had little participation there because he was recovering from his injuries. So after that season in '66, I got together with Bill and I said, Bill, I think it's time to move on. I said, I think we ought to sell this business. So anyway, luckily we found a buyer and we sold the business, and that was the beginning of the shortboard era, and it kind of passed us by. Once I sold the store, I married and had taken a position with a engineering construction company in Philadelphia who built power plants, and that's where I went off in that direction, and I no longer surf. When you're working out in Illinois or the high desert of the state of Washington, it's you kind of get away from being able to surf, and some ways I do miss it. Other ways, that's just the way life takes things. I guess the most satisfying thing about the years that we were in the surfboard business were our customers. And back in those days, they kind of looked at us like a bunch of second-class citizens. And to see how those individuals have matured to become doctors and lawyers and successful business people, to me, that gave me a lot, over the last few years has given me a lot of satisfaction about what we did in the surfboard business. I felt like I was a part of their life and maybe part of helping them grow up a little bit. We set a pretty high standard. We didn't put up with a lot of baloney, especially in our surfboard shop, but if you were kind of a little off the edge, we didn't have much to do with you. And there was a lot of kids that we lost a couple in Vietnam, but all walks of life, and most of them are, I don't know too many failure stories. Most of the people survived their teen years and went on to be successful people. You know, it's been a number of years since I have surfed. It still defines me, I think, a lot. I think people look and say, know that I was in the surfboard business, and here I'm in my 70s now. It was special. The people were special. And I guess it's like the only person you can talk to about surfing is a surfer. Because if you've never surfed before, it's you just can't express it to them. There's no words to express some of the things. It's just a feeling, the feeling of catching a wave and standing up and making your turn and doing whatever you do, you want to run to the nose or what have you. And only a surfer can appreciate that, I believe. And I look back on it, and it was really an important part of my life. It really shaped me. As I said before, I worked in the construction business for 30-some years and held some pretty high positions in management of multi-billion-dollar projects. And some of the things I learned in surfing, maybe catching the wave, but dealing with people, and it had an influence on me, and it helped me deal with the problems and the people that I dealt with, because it just gave me a little bit more understanding with how people think and what makes people tick. I don't know, because it's the whole thing is how I learned was not only from riding waves, but in the retail end of dealing with people. So it made me, I think, a better person, and certainly helped my career along, because I just knew how to do things. And people said, "Well, how do you know how to do that?" And I said, "Well, I just do, I experienced it with a kid that's 12 years old and comes in and wants to buy a surfboard, and I have to, I walk him through what he needs, and he's with his dad, and you're talking to his father and this sort of thing, and I don't know, just a great experience. It's just wonderful."